Hey, what's going on, everybody? Or the people that are here right now. Where are we? I'm just making sure that I'm on the right one. Yeah, this is Unit 10. Just giving everybody a little bit of an opportunity to jump in here because I know there's been a few people that have been showing up late. I don't know why it doesn't send you guys. It used to send out a message saying when I go live, but I don't get the email anymore. And I don't know how to fix that. Yeah, it won't fix here either. Hey, what's going on, Tabitha? So just let you guys know. Hey, what's going on, Yana? Just to let you guys know, we did all the way. So we did pretty much. So this is my answer key one. So this is the answer for all the questions. So hey, Katie. So I know we didn't do all the questions here. Hey, Mariah. So there's a few that we may have skipped over when we went through this, but I'm just kind of scrolling down slowly. So if you guys go back and watch the video and you need to check the answers to a question that we may not have done, you'll be okay. Same thing, like we didn't do this part C on number 8 yesterday, so that's there if you guys want to take a look at it. We are going to start with number 9 today because those were the long division ones. And then from there, we are going to go into, we're going to go to the very last question. So we're going to like skip over one of them, which is going to be, I think it was question 11. So question number 11, I'm saving for Monday next week because it was in this review packet, but we didn't get to that lesson. So what I'm going to do is next week we'll come here and we'll actually do those problems then. Um, just checking my phone because I'm in a huge like text message chain with all the teachers, but that does not include me, so I don't care. All right, so yeah, it looks like we're doubling up now with the number of people here. So I'll start teaching, and then if they missed out, I can always scroll back. So I'm gonna go to question number 9. Some of you guys may remember how to do all the long division and stuff. I'm gonna do it both ways. So I'm gonna do it long division with the variables, and then I'm gonna do what we called synthetic division, which was the shortcut method. So I will do both for this first problem. So I'm just gonna draw a line straight down the middle. I'm gonna do on the left side, it's gonna be long division. And the right side is going to be the synthetic division. And you guys get to pick whatever you want to do. As soon as I get up, so I would never finish the lab. Yeah, the lab isn't due until Tuesday. You guys got plenty of time. So long division. When you guys were to do long division, it's just regular division. The top, the numerator, goes on the inside of the division bar. And that x minus 2 is in the denominator, so it goes on the outside. So some of you guys prefer doing it this way. Some of you guys prefer doing the shortcut. If you don't like this way, maybe click mute and try to ignore me. If you did like this way, I'll go through the steps and you can at least check to see if what you did matches up. So when we did this, I told you guys to look at that leading variable, and you always look at the variable when you're solving it out this way. So I got that x out front. What I'm asking you guys is x times what? So x times what would give you x squared? And we should know that x times x would give us x squared, so I'm going to put an x up top. After you figure out how many times it fits into it, you have to distribute that x through. So I'm just going to take this x and I'm going to distribute it to the two numbers here. So it's going to be x squared. and negative 2x. And when we did division, after we did our distributing, we had to subtract those answers. So even though it says x squared minus 2x, you guys were told that you would have to put a negative sign in front of both of them to subtract. Now I'm going to zoom in on this so it's a little bit easier to see now. So I put the subtraction sign in between both of them, but what's really going to happen is it's going to be negative x squared, and in the second part, since they're both negatives, they turn into be positive. So now we have x squared minus x squared, which is going to cancel out, and we have 8x plus 2x, which is really just going to be 10x. After you guys did that, you guys had to repeat the process. So you were told to bring down the next number, which in this case is minus 7. And then we're just going to repeat everything all over again. So now I got to figure out x times what gives me 10x. Well, that means we have to multiply a 10, because 10 times x would give us 10x. And now I have to distribute that 10 to both of those numbers. Well, 10 times x is just going to be 10x, and 10 times negative 2 is negative 20. Yeah, sorry, Shannon. The notifications aren't going out, and I don't know why. You didn't miss much. This is all I've done so far. After you guys get there, now you're just subtracting both of them. So I'm going to subtract the 10x. I'm going to subtract the 20, but that really means that 20 is going to become positive. Well, the 10x's cancel out, and negative 7 plus 20 would give us 13. So this down here, that 13, is known as our remainder. And the x plus 10 that we have up top is known as our quotient. So you guys were told you have to write this in quotient remainder form. And in order to write something in quotient remainder form, all you're going to do is write down the quotient, which was that x plus 10. And then you're adding on the remainder, but the remainder is always over what you were originally dividing by. So since we were originally dividing by x minus 2, I just have to put that remainder over x minus 2, and that is now in quotient remainder form. So I'm going to do the same process. I'm sorry, not the same process. I'm going to do the same problem using a different process. I'm going to use the synthetic. Synthetic is the shortcut method. And luckily for you guys, because we're not going to have a Regents exam now, if you guys want to just do the shortcut method on all of these problems, I'm fine with it. Okay? I don't have class tomorrow. If you guys really want me to do Zoom, I will. As of right now, I don't have Zoom planned. So this is what I'll say. If you guys want Zoom or you want help with that lab, shoot me an email and I'll just jump on whenever you need me to. Okay? So I'm going to do the same thing, same problem, but do it synthetic. So now when you go to do synthetic, because this is fake division, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the division bar upside down. Now I have it upside down. What we were taught to do is the numbers that go on the inside of the bar is still going to be the top numbers, but we're only looking at the numbers, no x's. So the first number is that x squared, so really it's just a 1. The second one is 8x, so it's really just going to be 8. And then the last one is negative 7, so it's just negative 7. The hardest part about the synthetic is remembering that when you go to do the outside portion of it, you have to take the denominator and set it equal to 0. Because when we do it this way, we don't want any x's. So we're just going to set it equal to x. So I'm just going to add the 2 over, and that means x is just equal to 2. That is the number that goes on the outside. So now as I go through these steps, when we did synthetic division, the first rule was to bring the first number down. So I'm just going to bring the 1 to the outside of that division box. The second step was to take the number on the outside and multiply it by the number you just brought down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to distribute the 2 times 1, which in this case is just 2 because that's an easy thing to multiply. And I'm just going to write it underneath the next number. And now I'm going to add those 2 numbers together. So 8 plus 2 is going to be 10. And now I'm just going to repeat the process. So now I'm going to take the 2 and I'm just going to multiply it by the next number. Well, 2 times 10 is just 20. So I'm just going to put 20 underneath the negative 7. And I'm going to repeat the same process. I'm going to add those together. And it does come out to be 13. Just like we had before, we have this 13 over here as our remainder. This 13 represents the remainder. So what we did was we boxed it off because that's not part of the quotient. It's separate. So we have to make sure it stays separate. And just like we did before, you're writing it in quotient remainder form. Well, quotient remainder form just means that you have to add the x's back in. So this part right, oops, I thought I was on highlighter. So this part right here is still going to be your quotient, and this part right here is still going to be your remainder. But in order to put the x's back in, you always have to take one x away from the original number. So this one up here, come on, I got to hold up a second. My iPad's freezing up again. There it goes. So this one right here was originally this x squared. So you have to take one x away. So when we brought it down here, it's no longer going to be x squared. It's just going to be x. That 8 right here was originally 8x. So you have to take that x away. So this is really just going to stay as plus 10. And then we have the remainder, just like we did before, 13 over x minus 2. So as far as the lab goes, I don't care which method you use. That's up to you. Pick what you feel comfortable with, and we're good to go. All right. Do you guys want me to go through part B? Because everything we're doing today is going to be division. So when I go to skip down to the problems underneath, it's just going to be more division. So if you guys want to do another practice one with division to be prepared for the one down there, we can. Doesn't matter to me. It's whatever you guys feel comfortable with. Let's see here. Yeah, we got a handful of people in here. I'm not seeing any responses. Sierra says no. I'm going by what Sierra says. She says, screw it, I'm done. So we did number 10 yesterday. Those are all the problems. I think we did all 3 of them yesterday. Number 11, I said we're going to save for Monday. So on Monday, we're going to do both of those problems. And that's all the lesson's going to be on Monday. It's just those 2 questions, and that's it. We're going to jump down to number 12. And if we have time, we'll do 13. But 12 and 13 are really the same type of question. So I did not, and I'll tell you right now, on the homework, or I'm sorry, on the lab, I didn't give you guys a question like 12 or 13. I just gave you, I think there's a part 2 for the long division problem, and it says, is it a factor? And that's what I'm going to talk about right now. As far as 12 goes, there's 4 answers here. So, in order to determine if something is a factor, you guys could factor it out. So, I'm going to show you guys that factoring by hand may not always work. So, I'm going to rewrite the original problem right here down below. So, I'm going to write x cubed the minus the 10x squared plus 11x plus 70. Now, this is going back maybe a month and a half now. I taught you guys a factoring method called factoring by grouping. When you guys do factoring by grouping, you guys were taught to group these 4 terms into 2 sets of parentheses. So I'm going to put the first 2 in parentheses, and then I'm going to put the second 2 in parentheses. Your goal was to factor both these parentheses down by using GCF. Well, if you look at the first bubble that I just created, we can factor that out with GCF by pulling out an x squared. So I'm just going to pull an x squared to the outside. And then I'm going to be left with x minus 10. When you guys go to do the second bubble, you have 11x plus 70. Well, honestly, if you try to factor that, you're going to realize it cannot be done. So we're stuck with 11x plus 70. We can't factor that anymore because we in order to factor it, you need to have two bubbles that are exactly the same. They have to have two groups that are the same. That's why they called it factoring by grouping. So back when I did this with you guys a month or two ago, every single one worked out nicely and we were able to factor. This does not work out nicely. So we can't use this method. Now, I don't know if Azuchi is in here. It looks like Azuchi is in here. So Azuchi, in Miss Randolph's pre-calc class, you guys were taught doing like the P over Q or Q over P or something like that. I'm not going to teach that in Algebra 2 because in Algebra 2, we have calculators. So I'm going to show you guys how you can find the answers to this problem by just using your calculator. So we tried doing it by hand. It didn't work out nicely. So with the calculator, what we're going to do is I'm just going to clear everything out. And I'm going to go into y equals. And I'm going to type that original problem in. So we have x cubed minus 10x squared, not 40, plus 11x plus 70. And I'm going to go into the table, but you're going to notice when we go into the table, we're looking for the answers that could possibly be a factor. Your table doesn't say x minus 4, x plus 2, x plus 7, or whatever the last one is there, x minus 5. It doesn't say that because our calculator doesn't show things as factors. It shows them as zeros. It shows them as roots. So in order to determine if this is an answer in the calculator, you have to change it into a 0. Well, in order to change something into a 0, it's like what we did with the long division up top. We're just setting it equal to 0 and getting x all by itself. So I'm just going to add that 4 over to the other side. That is our first 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go onto my calculator at x equals 4. And I'm checking to see, is that a 0? That's what we're trying to find out. Well, when x is equal to 4, y is equal to 18. That means this does not work because it needs to be equal to 0 in order for it to be a factor. So A cannot be a solution to this problem. Y has to be 0 in order for it to work. So this is kind of new right now. And I'm going to write the rule underneath so you guys are okay with it. But I'm just trying to, this is like the newest thing that we're going to do, and then we'll be good. So I'm going to come to part B. Again, I got to make it equal to 0. So x is equal to negative 2. So on my table, I'm just going to go to negative 2. Y is equal to 0. So B is an answer. Because y is equal to 0, it's a factor. I'm going to have to move my work out of the way. The work that did not work. Let's move it down here. So B does work. It is equal to 0, so that's okay. So now I'm just going to check C. So again, I'm doing this, a little bit slower, and I'm showing all my work with this. You'll realize that these problems will go a little bit faster because you'll be able to find if something's a factor elsewise. We have x equals negative 7. So I'm going onto my calculator. I'm going all the way up to negative 7. Negative 7 says the answer is negative 840. Well, in this case, it doesn't work because it needs to be equal to 0. So C can't be an answer. So now I'm just checking the last one. So that means x has to be equal to 5. I'm going down to positive 5, and that is a 0, so that does check. So anytime you're looking for something to be a factor, and this goes to the very, very last question in the lab. I'm asking you if something's a factor. That means that the answer has to be equal to 0. So on, no, Tabitha, on the last question, let me get to it in a second. Let me write down the one rule. If the answer is 0, then it is a factor. So if the answer is 0, then it is a factor. So to answer Tabitha's question, do we have to show that work? No, you don't have to show the work that I just did, because the question that I ask on the lab is a little bit different because it tells you to divide first. So when you go to divide, you're checking to see if the remainder is 0 or not. So if the remainder is 0, then it's a factor. If the remainder is not 0, then it is not a factor. So I'm going to scroll back up in a second. Javon, there is a way that you can do it without the calculator. And again, if Azuchi's in here, he'll explain to you that you do not want to do it without a calculator. In pre-calculus, there are, you have to find what they call possible real roots. And some questions that you will do will have like 20 different possibilities, and you would have to check every single one by hand, and it's not fun. So because we're in Algebra 2 and you guys are allowed to use these guys, I will always teach you how to use it for these ones. If you really, really, really want to know how to do this one without a calculator, stop by one of my Zoom hours next week and I'll show you guys. So Azuchi, would you prefer doing it with the possible rational root, or would you prefer just checking it on the calculator? That would be the question. So I'm jumping over to the lab now, and I'm going to go to the very last question on the lab. So number 10 has 2 parts. In number 10, first I'm asking you guys to solve it and get it in quotient remainder form. Oh, Azuchi, if you don't want to use the calculator, you don't have to. Katie, which one are you talking about? Are you talking about number 10? Well, hold on. If in the question we just did, yes, we typed it into y equals. All I did was I typed this into y equals, and we were trying to figure out which one of those were the correct answer. All right, no, I was about to show you guys the lab. You guys were jumping ahead of me. So in the lab, when you guys go to solve this problem, what you guys have to do first is long division. So, or synthetic division. Do the division, whichever one you want to do. You guys can either do long, and actually I wrote it up here. You may use long division, or you may use synthetic division. This is kind of us doing it by hand because I'm telling you guys to divide it. So if you guys divide that out, you're going to get an answer. You're going to get a remainder. What I want to know is the remainder equal to 0? If the remainder is 0, then you know you have a factor. If it's not equal to 0, then it's not a factor. And that's the notes that I just wrote on that last problem. The one that I specifically showed you, we had to type into y equals because we didn't know what we were dividing by. I mean, there is one other way we could have done it, but you guys wouldn't have liked it. So I'm just trying to show you guys a shortcut from now, and then we can go more into it next week. I just want to make sure you guys are going to be comfortable knowing what a factor is when you do long division. As long as you guys are okay with that, I'm happy. So if the remainder is equal to 0, it's a factor. If the remainder is not equal to 0, then it's not a factor. Okay? And that's, I think, yeah, I mean, that's everything that you guys need to know for this lab. Everything that we did inside this review packet, we're good. Okay. I'm going to go back to Javon's. I'm not actually going to do this all out, but Javon's question is, can we do this by hand? Yeah, technically you could do this by hand by taking the original problem. So you're taking this part right here, copy. And what we could have done is the long division for this one. And I could have done it for x minus 4. And then I could have shown all that work. And if you did all that work, you would find out that the answer would have came out to be this 18. Oh, is it freezing up on you, Sierra? I'm sorry. Then you could do the same thing for part B. You could do your long division, but you would have to divide out the x plus 2 then. And you just have to do that over and over and over. And it will just take up a lot of time by doing it that way. 1 and 2 what? I don't know what you mean by 1 and 2. 1 and 2? I don't know. But as far as this week goes, that's everything as far as the lesson goes. You guys should be able to go through the lab. If you guys have a question or you're confused with something as far as the lab goes, so like you put, no, Javon, just divide it. Do long division. Do long division. I'm telling you to do long division. It tells you in the problem you have to solve it with long division. You may use long division or synthetic division. Yes. It tells you what to do in the problem. You got to read it. You may use long division or synthetic division. You have to do one of those two to solve it. Javon, if you're confused with 1 or 2 in the lab, what I'll ask you to do for now is go back and watch my video because I showed the whole step-by-step in the video. And then if you're still confused, stop by the Zoom. Okay? All right. I want you guys to try these ones. I'm not going to do the questions on the lab with you guys, remember? So if you're having trouble with something, go back and watch the video first. And then if you are still confused with what was going on in the video, I'll make up a new one for you. But I'm not going to do the questions on the lab. Because the tough part about this right now is this was supposed to be a test. And obviously, since you guys are home, I can't have, I can't do that part. Are you talking about question number 10, Javon? The factor part is what I was saying up here, dude. You have to check to see if the remainder is equal to 0. So Javon, I'll write it. I'm not going to write it out. I'm just going to say it all step by step for you. The first thing you have to do is take this problem right here and either do long division or synthetic division, whichever one you want to do. You're going to get an answer. Your answer is your remainder. Take a look at that remainder. If the remainder is 0, then it's a factor. If it's not 0, then it's not a factor. That's it. That's all you got to do. Okay? Javon, I'll talk to you afterwards. I'll send you a Zoom and I'll talk to you one-on-one because it'll make it easier. Ella, you're just going to have to go back and watch the video and then see if you have any questions with it. And then if you do, I can help you out. Okay. So if you got questions, don't be afraid to shoot me an email. Javon, I'm going to go create the Zoom right now and you can jump in and I'll try to figure out what you're asking me, okay? Everybody else, get me what you can. This isn't going to be due until Tuesday, but I'll create the show be right now so you guys can turn it in if you're already done with it. But again, if you got questions, stop by the Zoom. Tomorrow, nobody's technically teaching. Some teachers may still have office hours. So if you want to jump into an office hour with me, send me an email because I don't have one planned right now. So if you need some help with something, email me anytime tomorrow if I'm around. I think I'm going to be around tomorrow. I have, actually, you know what? I have an appointment for the puppy at 3 o'clock. So if you jump in or if you try to ask questions around 3, I won't be able to help you because I have to go to the vet. But otherwise, that's all I got for you. Tabitha, yeah, I'll send it to you too. All right, I'm going to go create it right now. I will catch you guys later. I hope you guys all enjoy your Easter weekend, whatever that may be right now. As long as it's nice out, get outside, spend time with your family. Okay. Yeah, I will do that, Ella. All right. I will catch you guys all later. All right. I'll see you guys on Monday. Love you.